Okay, cool. We did it. And now we're doing the other one. Okay, sweet. Yay. Yeah, we did it. Thank you for being here. Appreciate you. Love you. I had a crazy week. It's been a wild weekend. I produced a show, a songwriter in the round show at the little theater right by my house here. It was lovely. It was such a great show. I'm just such a fan of songwriters around here, and there's some incredibly beautiful music that needs to be shared and showcased. So that's why I created it. Mostly because I wanted other songwriters to talk to and to engage with and get feedback from and all that stuff. So that was lovely, but I am tired because I had a very busy weekend. My friend Jalen was here from Oahu, and we went, I showed her around Maui because she'd never been here on Saturday. And yeah, we were just all over the place. And I just wanted to talk today about, I think, the importance of, number one, knowing music theory as a singer. Even just a teeny little bit is really helpful. You don't realize how helpful it can be until you really see how it applies to the songs you're singing, to how it applies to making learning a song easier. Yeah, it's really helpful. And then number two, knowing how you practice and knowing what works best for you and your brain and what works best for you and your schedule and your other responsibilities. I tell people this quite often, that like, you don't need an hour every day to continually grow yourself as a singer. You just need 5 to 10 minutes. Maybe you could do 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there, 5 minutes there. And as long as you are focused and not trying to think about 3 other things, you're going to learn something. And I tell my songwriting students this as well. Like, you've been listening to music your whole life. You don't necessarily need to learn all the words and the vocab and the exact intellectualization of it all, of the music theory and or of the notes, the exact notes that you're singing. But it can sure help when you are struggling and you're like, no, I thought it was this one. I really thought that was that, but I'm wrong every time. So it can really help to get scientific about it and to get more in the weeds with what you are learning. So, for example, very easy example, if you're singing Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, right? You know how that goes. But for example, if somebody didn't know and they were just learning it and they forgot where to go after Twinkle, Twinkle, right? You go, Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. And you can kind of visualize a map in your head of how that feels. But some people don't have that internal map really solidified. And so somebody might think that that second note either goes up just a little bit or stays the same or even goes down. And it's really important to kind of do a little bit of ear training here and there to at least know your intervals. That's like basic music theory I think every singer should know, because intervals are how you create melodies. They're involved in every single thing you do, because you're not singing the same note all the time, right? It's not twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder what you are. So you have to know where you're going to and the distance between the notes that you're about to sing. Because some people, they just have this innate perfect pitch thing, but most of us do not. So we can't just look at sheet music and be able to sing a melody exactly. Now there is lots of training that you can do around sight reading and all that, but that takes a lot of time. And I only can do it barely well, and that's only because I used to play instruments in band, and so I know how to read sheet music really well, and it's ingrained in my past experience. But if you've never read sheet music, why expect yourself to do that, you know? So take your time with this, but the little pieces of music theory that you can start to learn can be super helpful for you, just knowing and trusting yourself even more, right? Like I talk about the nervous system all the time. It's all about trust, you know, like we learn how to approach whatever we're singing through our past experiences with it. And I have many students that come in and they're like, yeah, I don't trust myself to sing that. I'm like, okay, that's interesting. Why is that? Oh, because in the past I had a teacher that was like, no, you can't sing that high. So you are ingraining that lack of trust with yourself. So ear training, number one, is great for building trust with yourself, because now I know, because of Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, that is a fifth. There's 5 notes, and there's 3 notes in between. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, twinkle, twinkle. We're going 1 to 5. And so just having that trust in myself to know, yeah, I know what a fifth sounds like. Twinkle, twinkle. And so now if I see it in another song, if I just hear it in another song, I can tell, oh, that's a fifth because it sounds like Twinkle, Twinkle. You know, just that alone can be so helpful for your nervous system, because you have a reference point. You're not just guessing, and you're not just throwing notes into the ethers, right? So just knowing that you have experience, and that you could probably figure out, or at least pretty close to it, what a fifth is, or what a third is, or what a sixth is. And in my group on my Safe to Sing community, I posted a week or two ago, this cheat sheet about intervals and different songs like that you can use as references to figure out what interval you're singing. So another one would be like a minor second, which is 2 notes right next to each other on the piano. It would be Jaws, you know, da 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 da. It's the closest interval you can get without being the same note, at least in Western music. Major second is Happy Birthday. Happy birthday, right? We're not going further into the song than that. Da 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 da. Da, 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 da. Another one of my favorites is Here Comes the Bride. I use it all the time for perfect fourth. Here comes the bride. That's a perfect fourth, and it's slightly less than Twinkle, Twinkle. It's not here. It's here comes the fifth, the fourth. So just knowing that is really, really helpful, because then I can apply that to where I am in my voice. So if I know that I am kind of in the middle of my voice, maybe around like an E or so, I know that if the music is going up like a whole octave, that is probably going to cross my bridge, and I'm probably going to have to sing that second note in my head voice. And that is a really helpful thing to know before I try and go for that really high note from a belty place, right? I'm going to end up cracking and squeaking, and it's not going to be fun for me. So intervals are also really helpful, because then you can apply them to what you know about your voice. And actually in my Enchanted Voice program this week, we were talking about voice mapping. So knowing where your low point is in your voice, knowing where your regular speaking voice kind of lies, knowing where your bridge is from your chest voice to your head voice. So mine is around an A or a B on the piano. So I could do both, kind of. Where my chest voice starts to kind of pull and starts to feel a little tighter. That's where that kind of lies. Where your absolute maximum of your chest voice is. So I know myself well enough to know that that C, or above middle C, is the top of my chest voice. I'm not going to try and hit a C sharp for longer than a half a second on a big chesty belt, right? So it's really important to know these things. And even if you don't play the piano, you don't need to. You can get a keyboard app on your phone, and it has the notes written out for you. So you can see that middle C is a C4. And most of us are, you know, female-oriented voices are sitting around that, right? They start a little below and they go a little bit above that. So it's really important to know these intervals and where your boundaries are, to know, like, is this song in a key that's right for my voice? You know, is it going below my range? Is this song starting on a D below middle C, and that feels unsustainable to me? And do I want to have this big belty note be in my head voice, right? Is it above my bridge? Is it coming into a D or something above middle C, which for me would be above my range, above my chest voice range? Do I want to belt that note? Then maybe I change the whole key of the song and I bring it down a couple so that it is now within my chest voice range and not a struggle. And another reason that I blame myself for not being able to hit certain notes. Our voices are not made to hit all the notes ever, right? We have boundaries and we have limits. And the most important part about learning music theory to me is knowing what is possible for you and what is not possible for you. And for me, that is so freeing and relieving, right? Like, it's so nice to know that I shouldn't have to expect myself to belt a D. It's not possible for me and where my voice lies, right? I shouldn't have to make myself sing all these Taylor Swifty low notes, because that's not where my voice range lies, you know? So learning your vocal range is really important. Learning a little bit of music theory is really important. Even just playing with a keyboard app can teach you so much about intervals, right? If you just play notes on there and practice singing along with them and feeling how those intervals feel in your voice, you're going to learn so much, and you're going to get so much visual knowledge combined with kinesthetic knowledge at the same time. So, for example, you can do something like this. Like, if you have a keyboard app, you can start on middle C, which is C4, and you just start singing that, and then go up 1, and then go up 2, and then go up 3. So you can feel that maybe a second feels too small, right? You feel like you're not doing much. Some people feel that. So like, you're not doing a whole lot. That's the happy birthday one. Happy birthday. Then if you go up another one, that's a third. May feel a lot bigger than you think it should, knowing what the piano keys look like, right? You're just 2 white piano keys away, but it feels like a much bigger interval. And then we're going up to a fourth, which is the Here Comes the Bride one. That feels quite a bit bigger for me. So in certain songs, you may feel like, wow, that's a really big jump. But then you find the notes on the piano and you're like, oh, that's a third. That is not a big deal. And then guess what? You start to build trust with yourself. You start to build confidence in the fact that by just looking into it a level deeper than just your hearing, you can realize, oh, that is a totally possible interval for me to sing. And it doesn't have to be so scary. It doesn't have to be such a big leap in my brain. And then it becomes not a thing. You do it over and over again, knowing that it is only 2 notes away from each other instead of the 6 that you maybe thought it was. And then all of a sudden you're like, on to the next point, right? That's not a hurdle for you anymore. So music theory learning and knowing your vocal range directly correlates to trust in yourself. So that's a huge reason why I highly recommend learning it. It's absolutely not necessary. But I think in the ways that you want to grow, especially if you're somebody that doesn't trust your voice a lot, it's so helpful to have a visual of it, especially if you're a visual learner and a kinesthetic learner. This can be so helpful to have just a keyboard. You don't have to even know how to play the piano. These keyboard apps, like, you just hit the note, it tells you what letter it is and what number octave it is, and then you hear it and you learn, right? And you can practice singing along with it and testing yourself. And you learn so much about your voice. You learn, oh wow, that one feels really low in my voice. Maybe I can try one more and see how that feels, right? You can test your own vocal range. So just make sure you do it when you're warmed up, because if you're not warmed up, it's not going to give you quite an accurate picture of where your voice normally lies. Test out your favorite song that you feel like, man, there's that one note in there that I just cannot hit. It feels way too high for me, way unattainable. Maybe it's actually just at the very top of your chest voice range. And because you've worked with me before, maybe you know that in order to hit those big chest voicey notes, we need so much more fuel and space than we think we do. It feels very different to sing up here at the top of my range, which is like A or B, than it feels to sing down here. I don't need near as much fuel and space to make that note sustainable and confident and powerful as I do up there. That's the other part of like learning music theory, is like, if you read the sheet music or if you can find a note on your keyboard app, you will have a much bigger picture about how sustainable that note is going to be in your voice and what other tools we need to add in order to make that note the easiest and the most sustainable possible for your voice in particular. Remember, whoever you're listening to and whoever song you're singing, they have a different mechanism than you. They have different boundaries in their voice, right? They have different vocal tone than you do. That's the other cool thing about learning music theory, is that like you will be surprised at like Some people, like Taylor Swift in her low, has a really, really warm low tone. It sounds like she's singing super low, like, whereas if I sang that note, it might sound a little brighter. And it's all about different, yes, number one, different mechanisms, but I was also doing a totally different coordination as well. So instead of I can go forward and bright and go and get all musical theater, yeah. So same note on the piano though, which is weird because it doesn't sound like that, right? It sounds like a totally different note. It sounds like I'm going much higher, but it's not. It's the same note. And if I can find it, I can find that note and say, okay, now I know that I can handle that note. I can handle that F sharp 3, and I can maybe try going lower. Okay, let's try another one. So it starts to get a little wobbly for me. So now I know that if there's a song that has this, anything below that E3, probably not going to work for me. So let's raise up the key so it's more doable. Yes? So if you are somebody that is like, I don't know anything about music, I don't know anything music theory, I don't know anything, you have the ability to learn little bits at a time. And I would suggest starting with intervals, because that will inform everything else you think about, especially as a singer, right? We're the only instrument that you can play that doesn't have like specific buttons. And I guess maybe like a theremin would be something similar that doesn't have like buttons. That's equally as weird. But yeah, it's just very mysterious, you know? Like if somebody says sing an A, I'm like, okay, number one, which A? And number two, I don't know if I'm going to get that right because I don't have a button to push that says A, right? I just have to rely on my ears and my knowledge of my own voice to just guess. And I'm getting better at it over years of doing ear training, but it's still just like, yeah, I don't have perfect pitch. I don't know exactly what to push. So this ear training and the knowledge of a little bit of music theory, just to have conversations with other musicians and to know your own voice better is so, so important. So that's why I am teaching a little bit of that today, actually, in my songwriting class. So even if you're not a songwriter, if you have no desire to write songs, if you're a singer, highly recommend at least learning intervals. So important. Just go Google like interval cheat sheet or something, and it'll give you all these things I'm talking about, like Jaws, Happy Birthday, Green Sleeves, Here Comes the Bride, Twinkle Twinkle, that kind of stuff. There's all kinds of cheats to start to learn those intervals. There's also really awesome apps out there. I'm forgetting what the app is that I've been using. I'll find it and I'll post it. I don't know, can I check right now without losing the feed? What is it? Tenuto. Okay. Are you still there? Okay, it's called Tenuto, Tenuto. And it is an ear training app. It will help you learn how to figure out what notes things are, how far they are away from each other, and then it gets more into chords and rhythms and all that fun stuff. Highly recommend. There's also really simple videos out there. If you look up Andrew Huang, Huang, he has a great video that is Learn Music Theory in Half an Hour. Highly recommend. I use it for all of my students who are looking into music theory. It's so simple to understand, and you can watch it back hundreds of times if there's a little part that you didn't get, and you can really keep leaning into that. Highly recommend. What else was I going to say? Yeah, and then you can get into chords, which is really fun. So if you know what a third is now, which we did on, we didn't do that one yet. Do, a deer, a female deer is that one. Oh, when the saints is the other one that you use. So you have a third. You can play the first and the third together. And then you have a chord, because a chord is just more than one note together. And then from there, you can create another third, which is actually a minor third on top. So it's not the same interval. It's not da, da, a female deer. It's the female deer. Right? No, I'm wrong. Female deer. Maybe it is. I'm losing my mind. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. Okay, that's it. There we go. I got confused for a second. So it is that major third, but in the top of a chord, it's actually a minor third. So you go down one note from that, and you have these two together. Sounds kind of saddish, right? Instead of, oh, it sounds a little happy. So at least learning what major and minor is can be super helpful as well. So you know kind of what patterns to follow when you're singing on top of any chord. And then you put those two together. You have a major third on the bottom, and you have a minor third on top, and you have a chord. You have three notes together, which sound really nice. So, I don't know, there's your basic music theory lesson for today. But go watch that Andrew Huang video, download Tenuto, train yourself just on your keyboard app. You know, just learn what separate intervals are and how they feel in your voice specifically, because they're not going to feel the same for everybody. Yeah, that's my TED Talk for today. It's go learn a little teeny bit of music theory. And I promise you it will make you a better singer, because you're going to be more of a scientist about your voice. You're going to have some visuals to put with your voice, which not everybody gets. So often we're just throwing stuff at a wall and saying, yeah, I think that's the note. I think that's how it goes. I don't remember. But you can do so much. You can go through a song that you're learning and slow it way down and pick out each note on the piano. And then you have a visual of how far away all these notes should be. And you can write it down, you know, A, C, E, F, D, that kind of thing. And then you can have more of a landscape of where that melody lies instead of just guessing. Some of you are not going to need this because you have innate knowledge about what pitches you're singing. You just have like a photographic memory about melodies, but that's not most people. So if you are not one of those people, this is going to be super helpful. If you're wondering what to study next as a singer, go learn this week. Just a little bit here and there can be really helpful. Okay, I'm going to go. I love y'all. Have a lovely day. I have one more week and then I'm off for a little while. So I won't be here on the 4th. But if you have any questions, I'm always here. Thank you for being here. I know there's some new people here, and I really appreciate you being here. I think that you're really going to like some of the posts that I'm going to be posting soon. I have a whole bunch of lives that you can go back. It's like a podcast, you know. My whole Instagram right now is like a couple months of podcast because all I've been doing is lives every Tuesday. So you're welcome for this vocal podcast. It's also on YouTube. You can find my stuff on YouTube. So yeah, keep that in mind. After I come back, I'm going to be launching another cohort of Vocal Magic. So if you're curious how to work with me, watch for that. It's my 6-month basically immersion program into the work that I do, which is nervous system focused, it's trauma informed, it's mind, body, spirit focused vocal growth in 6 months. And yes, I know that's a big commitment. It's not for everybody. However, if this intrigues you, let me know and we'll talk about it. We can have a meeting anytime in the next couple weeks so you can be the first one to sign up when I open the doors in June. So I love you. I'm here for you if you have any questions, always. Put some questions in the comments if you have them. Send me a message, and I'll see you soon. Thanks for being here. Go learn some intervals, play around on your keyboard app, and have fun. That's the most important part. Don't let it frustrate you. Music theory can be really hard for us creative right brain people, and it feels too left brain and weird. But push through. It's not that frustrating. It doesn't have to be. Take breaks. Whatever you need to do. I love you very much, and I'll see you soon. Goodbye.